Hello, good night. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your questions today. And of course, we have the results. So I want to talk to you about that. So we have a lot of fairs going into 2025. I, as an immigration attorney, I know what is coming. I have an idea of what's coming. Specifics are a little unclear, but I have practiced during the previous Trump administration, so I have an idea of what is coming. Um, and we have all heard what Trump has said he is going to do once he gets into office. Now, he has promised mass deportations, among other things. And then, of course, we have Project 2025 that details a lot of the actions that they have said that Trump will do once he gets into office. And so I understand the fears here, and I have not slept. I haven't slept, and I'm pretty sure many of you have not slept. Finding the news out, it it really made me sick. Uh, but as an attorney, my this is my job. It's hard, but my job has always been hard, challenging. We've had great policies in the past 4 years that has made my job a little easier, but my job has not changed. I have always helped people to get protection from deportation, and that work is going to continue. And I have the experience of working under the Trump administration previously, so it's basically to get back to what it was before. What does that mean? Go harder. Go harder, right? It just means it's time to go hard. I mean, I sat down and thought through everything. And when we hear Trump talking, we hear what we hear is day one immigration, 13 million undocumented immigrants are going to be sent out of the country in mass deportation efforts, and that thought is very scary. The thought of that happening is very scary. And then seeing in Project 2025, they talk about getting rid of certain types of immigration relief. Um, that is very scary as well, because a lot of the relief, like for example, the T visa, the U visa, VAWA, in Project 2025, they talk about repealing the laws that are associated with giving undocumented immigrants protections based on what they've been through. But I want to be able to alleviate your fears a little bit. Let's get logical, to talk about what to expect. And I want to let you know, I want to talk you through this so that you can understand that there is time. The time is now, though. The time is now to get ready. And for one, the laws that are in place that we have been using for decades, since 2000, to get our clients relief. So these laws have been in place since 2000. I've been using them since I have been practicing. Those cannot just be thrown out the door by Trump, right? So I want you to understand that. The laws that are there that can get you your papers, get you protection, it's still there. When he gets into office on day one, it's still going to be there. It's not going to be gone. So, what I say here is make sure that you get on it. If you qualify for one of these forms of relief, now is the time. Me and my team, we are determined to work double time to get everything in, right? So, we are going to do that. We're going to get everything in before, because we want to make sure. And the reason why it's important to get everything in as soon as possible, because it's going to take a while to, if they're even going to, if they can even get through past Congress, right? If Congress has to agree to withdraw the laws, that can take months, months. Not to mention, during the past administration, one saving grace were the lawsuits. And so I and my team are also looking at tools like that to help our clients, to enforce our clients' rights here in the US, because the lawsuits got really kept Trump and the outrageous policies he was trying to implement in place, right? Kept him restricted and ran the clock. So by the time he was out of office, then we had more advantageous relief, and immigrants were able to find a better way. So it's going to take time, but don't wait. Now is the time to figure out what you qualify for, because the laws that are in place now is what's going to protect you now. Whenever they make changes to the law, they have to provide notice. It goes through a legislative process. So these take weeks and months. They can't just say, oh, it's going to be gone. And then furthermore, keep in mind that they cannot repeal the law today and then say, oh, everybody else that applied in the past, you can't get this anymore because we got rid of it. It usually is effective going forward and not backwards. So it means that you are presenting an option for yourself when you have those papers in while the law is still current. We are still, now, if they have the conditions right in Congress, they can work on repealing the law, but it's going to once again take months. Not to mention, you're going to have people that are going to resist this lawsuits, and you're going to have even Congress members that are going to resist long-standing laws that have protected people who have been vulnerable here, who have contributed to the United States, who have lived here for a long time. Those laws are there to give relief to immigrants like this. So they're going to be in for a long fight to repeal these laws. So it's best that you make sure you seek protection under those laws. So where do we go from now? Where do we go from here? Right? That's what I said. Where do we go from here? And that's when I, put my lawyer hat back on, because I, when I saw the news, I was a person, a vulnerable person. I was a woman. I was a Black woman at that. That was also not only voting for immigrant rights, but my own rights, my children's rights. So it made me very vulnerable at 4 a.m. in the morning, when it really sunk in that he was gonna come back. But then I said, wait a minute, this is not new. This is not new. And I also just got off of a call with my fellow attorneys who practice the same areas as me. And they also said that this is not new. We've been here before. And it just means that we're going to have to work harder again to succeed, because we had successes. So what I am telling you now, though, is you need to wise up. Don't go into the shadows, because that's no way to live. Going into the shadows is making yourself more vulnerable. It's making yourself more vulnerable to not only the administration, but to unscrupulous employers, traffickers, people that want to mistreat you and abuse you. Going into hiding means you can't work, you can't support your kids. That is no way to go. It's impossible, right? But what you can do is figure out what do you qualify for? And let's get started on that, right? So that's what we're doing. That is what we're doing, where the laws are still the same. Now, in next year, of course, where we might see some pushback, of course, are things like the starting things we're probably going to see is they're going to start checking fields. So I know when we had to submit forms, they were very nitpicky about certain the way you had to fill in the forms. And if it wasn't filled in that way, they would reject the entire form, frustrating attorneys, right? So those are probably going to be the changes that we're going to see coming back, changes that are meant to frustrate us during the process. And then we're going to start seeing policy changes. But this is what I'm saying here. Policy changes takes weeks and months to go into effect. So we will still have time to get you apply for you before those new policies go into effect, because it goes through a notice period before it can become effective. It has to go through a notice period, and that notice period can take months. Same with putting fees back in place. If they're going to put fees back in place, for example, for the TVs, that takes months to do. Not to mention, there will be lawsuits. There will be legal actions in place to try to stop these policy changes from happening, and it was successful the last time. I also want to talk you through. I want you to be able to see this logically so that you can understand that there is the picture that we have in our head of mass deportations happening on one day is basically impossible, right? So I looked at so it's the American Immigration Council's report on mass deportation. What would happen? The devastating consequences of mass deportations. And I'm going to go through each one here. So I'm going to go through this here step by step, so you can see the devastating consequences to the United States, and the government, if we should have anything close to what Trump is saying he's going to do. And trust me, the consequences are so devastating. It would put us it's going to put us into a recession, right? Hi there on Instagram. I'm so sorry. I did not hit the live, so you're joining a little later. But what we're talking about here is where do we go from here, right? We talked about the fact that it's going to take months to get, if they're going to even succeed at getting rid of the laws that we currently use to get protection for our clients, it's going to take weeks and months and lawsuits and possibly years to do. But this is where I'm saying take action now to figure out what you qualify for, because when you apply now under the current laws, you are protected under the current laws. Once you try to apply for anything, or you now try to figure out how you can get protection after they've implemented policies, then that's where you're not going to have that empowerment or the protection of the laws. So make sure. I think they're blowing smoke. So I'm gonna, JTech, I'm gonna tell you why I think that you're right on that. Of course, there's going to be increase, like we saw during the Trump administration. We're gonna see increased enforcement, increased deportations, but nothing on the level that Trump is saying. Day one, mass deportations. You might hear about, ICE sweeps maybe for a few weeks, and then it's probably going to die down after a while, right? Because it's so expensive. It's going to be so expensive. And it's going to be not only expensive, but how does it look to the American people when they start to see these things, experience the consequences of this? Then they're going to have a backlash as well. Similar to, for example, the child separation, right? We were experiencing all sorts of terrible immigration consequences throughout the administration. But when they could not look away from children being ripped away from their parents, that was where they drew the line. And Americans stepped in to stop that from happening. So I'm telling you this to just let you know that this picture that we all have in our heads, I want to talk to you logically about how to calm yourself down, think logically, and stop, take a breath, and then just head towards a solution, right? Nothing that I am doing is going to change, except I'm just going to go harder. All the laws are still the same, and they are going to be there when Trump gets into office, because Trump has to go through Congress, go through months of debates, votes, to get rid of any of the laws that our clients get relief under, where they get protection and relief under. And then to change the policies, there's a notice period. They can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to change the policies tomorrow. No more T visa." And all the policies that we had to help immigrants get the T visa, tomorrow I'm going to stop all of that. They can't do that. It has to go through a notice period, and it's going to take weeks or months to go into effect. And we're going to have a date. They're going to tell us the date that is going to go into effect, and then we're going to know, okay, get everything in before that date, and our clients will be protected by the old policy, and the new one would not apply to them. All right. So just keep that in mind. Let's be logical and think of, don't think to go into the shadows, don't think to hide. That's no way to live, and that's going to make yourself vulnerable to deportation, because if you do not have any protections, if you can't show the government that you are entitled to a protection, then you're making yourself vulnerable to be deported, right? That's where I'm saying, let's talk, get in touch with us, let's talk, and then let's figure out if there is that protection for you, so that we can get started on it right now. So this current law will protect you. That's how you're going to empower yourself. That's how you're going to move on with life. Because think about it. If you go hiding, you're not going to be able to work. That's no way to live. It's no way for a human being to live. So let's get empowered. That's what I do as the attorney. I empower you. And so I'm here to tell you how we're going to move forward here. And nothing has changed. Nothing has changed yet. And even when it changes, we're going to be there to fight. Okay, we're going to be there. I've been through this before. And we're all, I did a call with other attorneys that do the cases like me. And we're all just taking breaths and saying, okay, it just means we have to go back to doing what we did before. It's not going to be as chill. It's going to be more challenging, but it's nothing new. Now, here are some things I want to show you. So, someone had mentioned here that they believe that, they're just blowing some smoke. And in a way, yes. I mean, if he could, I'm pretty sure he would. But the problem is it really possible and realistic to deport 13 million people in 1 year? Even if they try to deport 1 million people a year, the cost would just be too high. The cost would be too high in every way. So I'm going to start with just showing you I took some notes from the report from the mass deportation, the American Immigration Council's mass deportation, devastating consequences of this move. I took some notes so that you can see what I'm seeing. So a one-time deportation effort, if they try to deport everybody at one time, and this is a conservative number, that means this is much lower than the number it would really be, is $315 billion of taxpayer dollars to gather constructive people in society, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, parents of US citizen children, to go and take these law-abiding immigrants from the homes and get them deported, right? And get nothing out of it. We would actually lose. We'd actually lose. And I'm gonna show you how we would lose. And don't think that the Trump administration is not taking this into consideration, because doing this is going to lead to a recession if they do this. And I'll show you why. So here, 315 billion. Now, even if, and then with detention, administrative processes, because of course, they're going to have to detain. You cannot deport 1 million people in one day. That's not even possible, right? So in 1 year, they would have to have deportation flights going out. But in the meantime, they would have to detain people. And in that process of detention, administrative processing, we still remember that immigrants are still entitled to a form of due process through immigration court. So they're going to have proceedings. That means immigration judges, lawyers. And this is at 1 million people a year over the 10 years. It would be almost $1 trillion to do this. $1 trillion of people's taxpayers' dollars, right? Almost $1 trillion to get this done for nothing, to get nothing out of it, right? But yet he is saying that he's going to improve the economy. But this is certainly spending $1 trillion to do this is definitely not going to do that, right? But it gets worse, right? In the process of doing this, separating families, taking immigrants out of the economy, because this economy, immigrants heavily support this economy. The economy heavily relies on undocumented immigrants. So it would reduce the gross domestic product and that's a GDP, by 4.2% to 6.8%. That right there would lead us to a recession. Recession, bad, right? That means businesses are closing down, people are losing their homes, people can't afford to live. That is not that. I'm pretty sure that they are doing the math on this as well. They have to be, right? Because this would lead to a massive consequences on them. Now the American people are going to be unhappy with where things are going, because now there's a recession. But here's why there's going to be a recession. And by the way, I have this on the screen on Instagram and YouTube. I don't have it on TikTok, so I'm reading it out. So if you want to see what I have here, just go to Getting the Green Card, the channel on YouTube, Getting the Green Card, to be able to see what I'm seeing. But I'll read it out to you. So here's why we're going to, in addition to reducing the GDP by 4.2% to 6.8%, that is leading to a recession. You're going to have reduced tax revenue, because nobody takes into consideration that undocumented immigrants pay a large sum of tax money to the IRS. They do that. They comply with immigration, with tax laws, right? Even though people don't expect them to, they do that. And I'm going to read this to you. So in 2022, undocumented immigrants paid $46.8 billion in federal taxes and $29.3 billion in state and local taxes. Undocumented immigrants also contributed to $22.6 billion to Social Security that they will not get, and $5.7 billion to Medicare that they do not get. Undocumented immigrants are paying into our economy, paying into our social security, paying into our Medicare, and they don't get it back, right? They can't qualify for Medicare, even if they tried. They can't qualify for social security. So they are paying into this. So we're going to have the government is going to lose a substantial amount of tax revenue from the hard-earned money and wages of undocumented immigrants. Not to mention that they contribute not getting anything back. This is, I mean, the threat of deportation is what they're getting, and the assumptions that they live off of public assistance, which is false, and they're just here doing nothing and committing crimes, which is false. So here's another fact here. Labor shortages, right? And this is another thing here. It's amazing that um, you have the very Americans. Actually, when I work with my clients who have been victims of trafficking, these are the Americans that are against undocumented immigrants, but they are trafficking undocumented immigrants. They're using them for labor and taking advantage of them at the same time, right? So here, labor shortages as a result of mass deportation, you would have massive labor shortages. And Florida has already experienced that. There've already been case studies in other towns where they had devastating economic effects. As a matter of fact, if you remember SB 1718, the same state congressmen that passed the law, Congress people that passed this law to prohibit undocumented immigrants from working. If you were in Florida or you're in Florida, you'll remember some of them started to publicly plead to immigrants to not leave the state because they realized that it was becoming devastating to hotels, agricultural sector, as well as the construction sector. And they're still trying to recover from that right now. So now expand that to nationally. The construction workers alone takes a large percentage of construction workers are undocumented immigrants. So what we would see here is we would see a breakdown of these industries: construction, agriculture, and the hospitality industry sector. There would be a breakdown there because there would be a shortage. They rely on immigrants, even undocumented immigrants, to work these jobs. So now because this is going to affect businesses, don't think that these businesses are going to go and hire American workers. No, because there's just a shortage. That's why they rely on undocumented immigrants to work. But they're not going to, what it's going to do is cause the business to function at a loss. And as a result, even US persons are going to lose their jobs because you're going to have places shutting down because they just cannot function without the labor that they depended on previously. And then keep in mind too that picture this, right? We have 5.1 million children, US citizen children, who live with their parents who are undocumented, at least one parent who's undocumented. Remember how scandalous it was, how outraged the American people were on both sides, no matter whether you were a Republican, you were a conservative, you were a liberal. When we all saw and found out about the family separations at the border, we were all outraged, right? And that was something we can't get out of our heads. We can't get over it. Families are still recovering from that. Well, can you imagine now that they're mass deporting immigrants? So they're separating millions of US citizen children from their parents. That is similar, very similar to what we experienced with the family separation. That's not going to go down very well, right? That's going to cause mass trauma, a collective trauma in the communities among US people. Imagine, picture seeing military, because according to Trump, he's going to send the military National Guard out and with ICE agents to go bust people's doors down or do workplace raids and pull people out and separate them from their families. So can you imagine that, doing that to millions of people, the outrage, the backlash that it would cause, the trauma? So, when we think about this, then we realize that, wait a minute, there are going to be limits here. This all can't just happen at one time. It's just the consequences are going to be too costly. And they know that. Now, what I am saying is there is going to be, as we saw in the Trump administration previously, we did see increased detentions. We did see that. So that is going to definitely increase. But on the massive scale that he says it's going to be on, it's when we look at the statistics and the facts, it's really not something that would be possible all at one time. I mean, never, the US has never deported more than 250,000 people in a year. Never, right? Um, so it's not, and then and keep in mind, by the way, to do that, to deport millions of people at one time, you have to detain them. And then while you're detaining them, that's going to cost money. Right now in the prison system, there's 1.9 million people in the entire country in the prison system. So can you imagine them detaining 13 million people? That just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. So I want you to just look at it from my perspective and this factual perspective. That's what we're doing here. We're looking at the facts so that you can understand we have time. You have time to get your ducks in a row. We are going to experience changes. It's going to get harder, yes, but that's my job. My job is to push through the hard, right? And the laws are still there. The laws are still the same. So take the time, take a breather. You're not gonna see mass deportation of millions of people next year. So take the time to figure out your options. So that's what I have for you today. And I have an idea of what you're feeling. I'm still feeling it, but I have some reassurance based on the laws that are still in place and the fact that I've looked at all of the facts in front of me and the limitations, the legal limitations of the administration. And it's not going to be as easy, right? Then we have lawsuits. We have the ability to file lawsuits. So all of that is going to be very important. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at every avenue to make sure that where it does get difficult, we have those options available to us at the firm as well. Those options are available and they're very effective. So let's take some breathers. I know, get some rest. I surely will get some rest and get up. I'm determined more than ever to just push forward as I've always done. And as long as we have these laws in place, we have the ability to continue to do what we've been doing. Nothing has changed, right? It's just the way we go about getting it is just going to be a little different, but I've been there before. So I do want to try to get through some of your questions as well. So let me go ahead and scroll through some questions. I'm going to work on each platform and then we can head out. All right. So, good day, attorney. How do we conduct ourselves immigration wise in the next 4 years? So, we have yet to know what the policies will be and how it's going to be. Um, as we see the changes coming, then I would be able to advise you better. But what I can advise you on now is if you have the ability to get relief now, that's going to be your first priority is to make sure that you have that. Because when you have protection, when you know you qualify for that protection and you've put your papers in, then that means that you can carry yourself um, in a way that you're more protected, right? You would have the ability to work, to live here, to live openly. Um, right now, the way you carry yourself, you conduct yourselves now, it's the same, right? And even when Trump comes into office, I could not tell you to go hide. That's just not any way to live. We really don't have any choice but to push forward the way we have been. I know you're living well. I know you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. You're complying with the law. That's what you're supposed to be doing. So keep conducting yourselves in that manner. I'm so heartbroken. I know. I have this. I do feel it too, and but the way we're going to fix this is to continue to change lives here and continue to use the tools that we have that are still in place. So I'm heartbroken because it's going to get a little harder, but it's not anything that I haven't done before. Um, I'm under immigration process right now, but I'm not sure anymore. So I would say that if you are going through a process, you are qualified for it, then you are in a better position than a lot of immigrants right now, because it means that whatever laws are in place to protect you, they still apply to you. And they're going to apply to you on day one of Trump's administration because he cannot take that away. Good night, Lorna. I am pushing through. Today was a hard day. It's a hard day and if it was hard for me, I can just imagine how hard it is for my clients and immigrants. But I've reassured my clients that we're here and they are in a good position. So, pushing through, pushing through. I wish I knew about your firm before I went with a lawyer that I'm with now. Well, I don't know much about the lawyer, but if you're having a problem with a lawyer, try to communicate with a lawyer, but also know it's your right to get representation that you want as well. People with pending AOS, will they be affected? So having a pending AOS, just like as I said before, having a pending anything is going to put you in a better position. So right now, no, it's not. Having a pending AOS, meaning adjustment of status application, and you qualify means that you're protected. You're protected while the process is going through. And then once you qualify and you get approved, then you're good to go. So you're protected. That's why I say make sure that you qualify for something. We've been doing scheduling consultations to get started on our clients' cases ASAP. So that's what it is right now. You're in a better position with a pending AOS. I'm an adult unmarried beneficiary for a U.S. citizen petitioner. How many years could this take? 2019 filer. So now in that case, it could take 5 to 7 years. So I don't know if you're in the US or you're out of the US. If you're in the US, then you definitely want to see if there are other alternative options available. Should a DACA recipient put in their paperwork now for marriage? If you qualify to get your papers through a spouse and it's a bona fide marriage, of course, then yes, absolutely, definitely go for it. Now, a DACA, I know in the case of DACA, if you enter the country without permission and you don't have a parole to show that you enter the country with that you were paroled into the country even later on, that may be a problem for the adjustment of status application. So it just depends on your facts. But this is where you can give me a call and let's talk about it. I have a VAWA pending, but I had overstayed my transit visa for 4 years, then left and came back without inspection and been here since 2006. What are my chances? I had I-130 and 601 approved prior. So, if you came in, left and came back without inspection, then that means that you may be subject to the permanent bar. But if there are ways under VAWA to overcome the permanent bar. So we would have to look at that. But it sounds like you're already being represented by an attorney. So they would be able to talk to you about that, to make sure that you do qualify. But yes, it just depends. But what are your chances? It also depends on your facts. Is there anything you can do with fees you charge, any discounts available? So for the Christmas season, yes, for the Christmas season, we do that every year. So right now, we are going to offer discounts for working up. I'm going to announce it soon, but we do that every Christmas season. So stay posted and look out for those discounts. What if I get caught up in deportation if I have a T visa pending? So with the T visa, that is why the bona fide, and that's what my fellow attorneys and I were talking about. Thank God Biden put in place policies that will protect you during, not only after you get the T visa approved, but during the T visa process through the bona fide determination process. So that means that once you get a bona fide determination, any kind of deportation acts are immediately stayed. So the T visa also has the ability to just get rid of your deportation once you're approved. So I'm telling you, it's a solid tool and it's still in place. And for them to get rid of it, it has to take them months and they have to give us a date that policy is going to change. So they have left us with policies where even if you do end up in a deportation situation, that pending T visa, once you get the bona fide determination, is going to protect you. So what state am I in? So we're in Florida, but we represent clients in all 50 states and the globe. What is your definition of undocumented? So I'm glad you asked that. Because some people think undocumented means that you came into the country without permission. So undocumented are those, and the undocumented and anybody who's undocumented, whether you cross the border without permission or overstayed your visa, you're at a higher risk of enforcement. And so it just means you don't have your papers, you overstayed your visa, or you came into the country without any papers at all, right? So that's what that means. Yeah, so Project 2025, yes, there are other things where they talk about limiting the media, but keep in mind that this none of this is going to happen without a fight. Because to lock down the media, they have to publicly threaten the media, right? They have to put public restrictions on the media. So keep in mind that there are going to be fights. Everybody is going to, not everybody, but the right people are going to be on the right side of the battle to fight this, right? So, and this is what happened during the last administration. So, we'll take it one step at a time. But whatever happens, we're going to look for the best tools to make sure we can enforce our rights. I filed I-360, and after I received prima facie, I filed my AOS package, but 765C31, my lawyer reapplied for EADC9. I received the receipt notice with. What does that mean? So you're just doing a background check for the adjustment of status, and then they may issue they're going to issue a work permit. So it doesn't hurt for you to get another work permit. So you got the C31, which is 2 years, and then you could get the C9, which is 5 years. And this is another amazing thing that the Biden administration did. They changed work permits from 2 years for most cases where you're doing adjustment of status, VAWA, they changed it, and asylum, they changed it from 2 years to 5-year work permits. So do you know that means that you would have your work permit for the duration of the 4 years that we're gonna have to go through this, right? That we're gonna have to go through these potential changes. So that's another very good benefit. What happens to pending AOS through marriage to USC? Same as T, same as VAWA, same as U, same as asylum. It's not going away right now. It is still in place. So get on it. If you qualify through that, get on it. Don't wait anymore. Okay. If your spouse is giving you trouble to get your papers, contact me. Let's talk about VAWA if it's based on mistreatment. Your spouse is mistreating you at the same time. Usually, if they are refusing to file for you, it's a red flag that they're mistreating you. So get on it, right? The laws, nothing has changed. And on the day one of Trump's administration, it will not change. We will know when those changes are coming. My cousin wants to know, what does she do? She came in the country legal. What she has nothing at all. What else can she do? Get in touch with us. That's what we're doing now. We're looking to see what options are available because they are there. So we just need to evaluate your facts and then decide if there's that option for you. My uncle had a terrible employer 3 years ago who refused to pay him at times, roughed him, and forced him to sleep in a coal closet. She's an overseer. Is there any remedy? Yes. T visa. Get in touch. Have your uncle call us. This is what I'm talking about. So many people are going through situations like this, and you think you have nothing. You overstayed your visa or you came in without permission. People treat you like this, make you work, rough you up, abuse you, and you think you have no rights. You have rights, and that's what the T visa is there for. And the T visa is there to protect you. So in this case, your uncle, while I'll have to talk to your uncle to get all the facts involved, this is a classic red flag for T visa. No pay, physical abuse, forced him to sleep in a cold closet, then of course, and I'm pretty sure it gets worse. Once I talk to your uncle, it's gonna get worse. So tell your uncle to get on it right now. Give us a call. Link is in the description of the video. Link is in the profile of the page. Get in touch. If I came in on my H-2B visa and I overstay my visa, can it affect my 10-year visa? Yes, it will. So it's probably not valid anymore. Can I refile for AOS of which I have NOID pending based on EB2? I have overstayed visa, pending asylum, and have a re-entry. So once you have overstayed your visa, you will not be able to get the EB2. You have to be very careful with that. The national interest waiver, and in some cases, it's a two-step process. You have to wait for your priority date to become current, and you cannot overstay your visa while you wait for your priority date to become current. So we can sort through it to figure out what's going on with the EB2. But annoyed doesn't sound great at all either. So, and if the annoyed is based on the overstay, then there you go, because you can't apply. It's employment based, and when it's employment based, you can't overstay and apply for it. Um, Mass deportation affects green card holders. No, not a green card holder will not be deported unless they mistakenly get caught up in a deportation, but that probably will be resolved by showing your status. But but how it will is if that green card holder is in a mixed family and they lose family members who are deported. So that's how a green card holder would be affected. I have questioned citizenship application. Get on your citizenship applications right away as well. Um, I had one DUI in 2019. I cleared everything. I done my probation last year. How long I have to apply for citizenship? Anyone have experience? So with one DUI, that does not necessarily reflect bad good that you lack good moral character, because that would be the main concern here. We'd have to look at your facts. We'd have to see the state that this occurred in, but it is possible, definitely possible. And especially if it happened more than, well, 5 years ago. But usually they look at certain offenses to determine whether it reflects on your good moral character. DUI may not, where it may is, for example, are you a habitual drunk? That can stop you from getting your papers if somehow in the facts it exposes some form of alcoholism, or they call it when you're a habitual drunk. Then that can be a problem. So get in touch with us. We definitely do citizenships as well. um, Good evening. I came into the US on 20th of October as a visitor. What can I do to stay? Don't, for right now, know your options before you make a decision to stay, right? Don't stay and then say, oh, I'll find a way, without knowing what you have, what options you have. So I wouldn't be able to tell you an option because I don't know all your facts, but um, I have a case filed. I did biometrics December. Is it possible? So I didn't get the rest of it. Is it possible to get a different lawyer? It's always your right to get another lawyer if you're not satisfied with your current lawyer. I understand what you're going through because I'm in it with you. I'm in this journey with you. So I know I'm the child of immigrants. So I know, right? I understand the journey. Can SIJS applicant get deported? As I said before, you have something in place. It's unlikely you're going to be caught up in any deportations because you're protected. You have a pending process. So, hi there, Temitope. It's nice to see you. And yes, my son is doing good. He is also disappointed about the results, but I'm trying to, not frighten him too much. How long will it take to get work permit after I apply for the T visa? Right away. So how long if you applied in 2023? It's taking a year to a year and a half right now. If your boss put in your extension and you only get approval letter and you don't get the next piece of paper, and I'm going home in March, what will happen? So I don't know what the approval letter is. So I don't. I'm a little lost there because the approval letter sounds like you got an approval. So um, in this case, if you're really concerned, you need to talk to us. In Trump government, how it affect I-751, cruelty, abuse, green card, it's the same. The same. Now, where it may get more challenging is the way they process things. They take longer to process it, right? Even longer than what Biden is taking now. So that is going to be one struggle. Um, but the laws are still the same. It's just that the way they adjudicate it is going to be different. Sometimes we're going to get unnecessary or really trivial requests for evidence that we didn't necessarily have to get, where we have to put more hours into just responding to it. So the burden is going to be more, but the laws are the same. So if you qualify for I-751 cruelty, extreme cruelty, an I-751 for everybody is where you have the 2-year, you're going to the 10-year. And in this case, you are married to a citizen, but they mistreated you, so you're applying without them to get the 10-year. In this case, you qualify, go for it. Don't let fear make you be paralyzed to pursue what you qualify for. That's why I'm here to help my clients, is to advocate, to do what I know best, so that they can get it. All right, so I'm gonna move on. Sorry, I mean removing. Yes, I get it, Jihad. I get it. All right. So I'm on Instagram now. So when is Trump going into office? January 20th. Can you answer questions in this live? Yes, I'm answering. So I'm going through from the top. Um, we waiting on you from day. Yes, I've been just sorting through everything, talking to other attorneys, just making sure that, getting ready. And I'm gonna keep getting ready. We're going to work really hard to get everything in. Can I still use advanced parole to travel for pending power? So what I would say is be careful. Be careful now with the travel document, because I have been noticing that they're paying more attention. They're putting, for example, some of my clients, they're being held longer in secondary inspection. It turns out fine, but if there's something in the background, they'll give trouble. So we've had one instance where they did that. They gave our client trouble because she had something in her background already that increased her risk. So this is where I say very important that you understand the risk is not zero. Um, I would say that's what the travel document is for, but now you have to really consider your risk. The risk, is it worth it, and what's your plan if you can't get back into the country, right? Because it's really hard. It's possible, but it gets really hard to fight when you're outside of the country, to fight for you to get back in. Is Biden immigration plan in effect? It's in effect, yes, now, and it's gonna be in effect until we get notification weeks or months into next year. So this is where I'm saying get on it. I'm waiting for remove conditional green card almost 5 years. Can you apply for citizenship? Yes, once it gets to the point where you qualify for citizenship, and sometimes when you apply for citizenship, then it nudges them to adjudicate your green card at the same time. Father is citizen, mother is green card holder. Can they bring the child to USA and file for her there? If the child is under 21, then keep in mind that you can't bring your child for the purpose of doing the papers. That's considered misrepresentation, because if they come in with a visa with the intention of applying for papers, then you're misrepresenting to the officers that you're just visiting. So, but we've had situations where the child came, and when they came, they just said, okay, let the child stay here and just apply. But for this to work, the child of the citizen father has to be under 21. I started my adjustmental status process, but I haven't received any part from receipt. It's been 8 months. Something is off there. 8 months is too long. They maybe got lost in the mail, or they may have rejected it. So get in touch with them, see what happened to the receipt notices, and see if they can resend it if it got lost. How long after I-130 is approved does it take for I-485 to approve? Been married for 2 years next month. I filed September 12th, 2023. So I usually see come within a month or two after the I-130 is approved, but sometimes they hold off because maybe there's something they're going to ask you for. So that's a possibility. My friend is asking, can you help with work visas for teachers? So usually with the work visas, it's J1s and H1Bs, but I don't do those. Um, it takes another 1 year again. So that was a comment. The good question here. So please, could this new government possibly start tampering with immigration processing right away? No, it's not happening. Pretty sure Biden administration is not letting that happen, and Secretary Mayorkas is not allowing that to happen. So no, and even I would say even when Trump takes office, you qualify for something, get it in, because the policies don't change yet. They won't change yet. And we're going to know when it changes. And so they're still going to have to adjudicate the processes based on the law that's in place. So Trump can't just come in and say, let's get rid of this law. There is a process, either a legislative process, or he has to go through a notice process. He has to give notification. It has to go through an administrative notice process. That's where they basically post the regulation, and then they're going to say the effective date. And then if it's a policy that we don't like, there are tools to be able to fight this. And these are what the tools that were used during the last time he was in office. So the lawsuits to challenge these types of policies if it's really something that's egregious and violates rights. So now it's going to be hard to get papers. The policies are still in place, and we're still using the policies. And if you qualify, as long as the policies that we are using are in place, you still have a good chance. But here's what I say too. When you apply under these current policies, it means that any new policies that come into place, it's not going to apply to you. So that's where it's very important, because these policies right now are more advantageous. It's more advantageous, it's more immigrant friendly, it's more humane. So that's where now where it's going to get challenging is the way things are done. For example, if you don't fill out some one little space, they may reject it. They may ask for something in an RFE, something really simple that was already in the packet. The processing times may get longer. That's where I suspect things are gonna be like that again, right? Where we're gonna see things. Another thing, for example, is a public charge rule. But keeping the public charge rule is where if you take any benefits, well, immigrations usually don't qualify for benefits. And for the T visa, for VAWA, for U visa, for asylum, they don't hold the public charge against you anyway. You're exempt. They don't look at that. So once again, that's why I'm saying the laws are in place right now to protect you. What does the person plan on marrying next year? What will happen? There's, as far as I know, they're still gonna have that law in place. So it means I say You plan to get married next year, maybe you should start talking about just doing it now, if that you have, that's a luxury that you have. What about PIP program? What do you think is going to happen? So right now the Biden administration, they're suing, the states are suing the Biden administration. And what I suspect will happen with the PIP, because the PIP is not like the T visa, it's not like VAWA, it's not like adjustment of status. Those are statutory laws. That means those laws were passed. So, for example, the INA law, INA has been in effect for decades. The T visa law, VAWA, since 2000, right? So those have been in place for a long time. And the only way that those can be repealed is if Congress repealed it, Senate and the House, right? So it has to go through a process. And I guarantee those laws are so foundational, so important in preventing the vulnerable immigrants from being victimized, trafficking victims, immigrants from being victimized by their spouse or their relatives, that I guarantee it's going to face a battle. No, the PIP program, this is where Biden had announced last year that they were going to give spouses of citizens parole, a parole in place that would allow them parole, and these spouses had to cross the border without permission, and then they would get parole in place to apply for adjustment of status. Certain states sued to stop the Biden administration from giving this benefit. But this is based on Biden's executive action. So I'm giving you a little lesson in processes, right? The executive, you have the executive branch, which is the president, and then you have the legislative branch, which is Congress. You have the Senate and you have the House. Now, when a law is passed through Congress, the president cannot, everybody has to follow that rule. The president doesn't have a say to say, we are not going to follow that rule. If that rule is there, the president has to follow it. Now, and then the only way that that can be changed is if Congress repeals it, I mean, takes it away or changes it, right? Amends the law. Now, the PIP program is it's based on his executive powers. So it's an executive action, and the president sometimes has limited abilities to do things like this. So the backdrop of this is the Congress was not cooperating with Biden administration to get immigration reform out. So what he did instead is he just said, all right, I'm going to use what power I have to just issue parole. Parole in place is like special permission that the government gives for someone to stay here for like a year, to have admission into the US. It's a discretionary relief that they have permission to give. But since it's discretionary relief, the state sued him and basically said he can't do that. So, long story short, what's going to happen in January? I think it's probably going to be one of the first things that they do. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe we get a miracle, but I don't expect him to be very charitable here. Is when he takes over the presidency, he's going to probably settle with the states, and they're going to then dismiss the lawsuit. And then the way he's going to settle with the states is to say, okay, we'll get rid of the program. We will terminate the program, and it will be no more, because it's discretionary. It's not a statute. It's not legislation. So Congress doesn't have anything to do with it. So that's what's probably going to happen is they're going to say, okay, we're all friends now, and we all agree this is not something we wanted. So we're going to get rid of it. So I suspect come January, that will be no more. What is the process now applying for work permit? So work permit, it depends on what you're applying for. What about your program? Will it still go on? So now I noticed you said, what about my program? Is it my, as in my lives? I'm gonna be here. But my program, I don't have a program. I am a lawyer that seeks protections for my clients under the current law. So that's where my clients are getting their work permits. They're getting their permits based on the law. They're getting protection based on the law. So I'm still gonna be here following the law and helping my clients to follow the law and get their papers. I plan on marrying my husband, American citizen. How does the process of obtaining citizenship work? So you'll have to file adjustment of status if you're here in the US. We do that, so give us a call and let's get started. So is it going to be hard next year? Boy, it's just gonna be hard. I mean, as an attorney going through 4 years, yes, it was hard, but we did it. It's you build stamina and you learn coping mechanisms to get through it, and then you learn how to adapt, right? So for example, some of the things I do in my current cases, I do based on what I experienced in the past administration. So, for example, I still put NA in every blank space of the form, because if you didn't do that, your form would have been rejected. So I always had in the back of my head that if this NA rule comes back, it won't feel like anything because I was already doing it. So it's just to basically take extra steps again, to do it. So people can still get married and thing next year, yeah, if it's laws are still there. What's the time frame on getting bona fide determination from the T status? I'm hoping a few months, but we haven't seen much come through yet. But we're thinking usually after the biometrics, 3 to 6 months is the timeline we're hoping for. How long are you seeing for T visas to be processed? So a year to a year and a half to be processed. What happens now when you overstay? So if you overstay, it means that you don't have your papers, and you're gonna be you're gonna have to look at your options for papers, but it becomes limited. I'm in removal proceedings. My court is in January, and I-130 is pending. Will they remove me? It depends on where you are in the removal proceedings. If you're going to the master calendar hearing, then it's not going to happen right away. And then the court system, by the way, the court system is inundated. So you're not going to, it's probably your next final hearing is going to be scheduled a ways off. My employee did a perm application. When do you think I will hear something? So if you did the perm with the Department of Labor, those are taking 6 and possibly up to 18 months, just depending on whether there's an audit. And then after that, adjustment of status. My friend came to the visiting visa, and she was afraid for her life back home. So she definitely needs to talk to us to see if she qualifies for asylum. How long does it take to get work permit with a U visa? I say a year and a half to 2 years. Father is a citizen, mother is a green card holder. Can they bring the child to the US? Child under 21 can go through the father, but you just be careful about entering the country to file papers. That might be a problem. She had a police report and restraining order, but it's outdated. Let her do an appointment with us so we can see what's going on. I'm a student. Can I benefit from VAWA? Yes. If you're in status, out of status. No. Oh, my uncle mistreated me. If your uncle mistreated you, VAWA wouldn't apply here, but we want to talk to you because what did your uncle do? If your uncle forced you to do work, pulled you out of school, forced you to do work for him, didn't pay you, forced you to do stuff around the house, That could possibly qualify you for a T visa, but we have to get your detailed information. All right, so I'm going to jump onto TikTok. And we probably have to wait till tomorrow to get to some more questions, but I'm gonna just answer on TikTok here. If your husband, if your husband used you and wants citizenship, what can you do? So I don't advise. I advise immigrants. I don't advise citizens on how to report immigrants. Hello, do you know why replacement green card is taking so long? I know it's frustrating. It's just backed up. They're processing. Can you get EB1 green cards as a social media influencer that has a lot of partnerships? It may be possible. It just depends on all your qualifications, what you've achieved in your career. Are you at the top of your field? It could be possible, but we'd have to talk in a consultation. I came back with AP and have a pending VAWA. Can I marry my current girlfriend and do an adjustment of status? No, if you get married, you lose VAWA qualification. So don't get married while your VAWA is pending. I'm located in Boca Raton, Florida, and Delray. We have two offices, so Delray and Boca, but we represent clients in all 50 states. My mom K1 while my mom K1 while my brother is K2. Can my brother live with me other state while on process? Yes, it's fine. Will TPS protect? Yes, TPS. No, TPS could be vulnerable because that's a usually discretionary benefit granted by the president. But during Trump's administration, he did try to terminate the TPS, and litigation stopped that because so many immigrants depend on TPS. So we can expect these shenanigans again for sure, but we're going to look at the tools to fight back and protect our clients and their rights. So, hi, can I file for citizenship without a joint bank account? I mean, you must be talking about green card for, it depends. Do you have other good evidence? So this is where you should talk. How can I get appointment with you ASAP? So it just depends on the availability on my schedule. You can also meet with, we have attorney Bria, we have attorney Deanna, and both of them are just as qualified as me. We work together very closely to help our clients. So if you want, you can call the office and or just schedule your own appointment with whoever schedule works best with yours. I'm currently waiting for an interview date for an immigrant visa. Will the election affect that? Not right now. It's probably not going to be the number one thing that they're going to change. Of course, we remember, I hate these flashbacks I'm having, but back in during Trump administration, we had the public charge rule where extra forms had to be filled out, and that did affect certain immigrants because the way it was set up was they looked at credit score, they looked at your history, they looked at your health, they looked at your age, they looked at your work history, they looked at your education, and they looked at a holistic, instead of just looking at the numbers, looking at the income of your relative, they looked at all sorts of things in your background as well as the income of the relative to decide whether you qualified for the rule. And then as soon as Trump came in, that was out the door, right? So that is might be something that could affect you at the embassy if they do. But keep in mind, they are going to let us know when this comes in. It's required. They can't just get up tomorrow and say, I think I'm going to, implement the public charge rule. They're going to have to say, here are the regulations, and this is set to go into effect on April 1st. And then we'll know the date, and what you'd have to do is get your application in before that date, or get your affidavit of support in before that date, so that it would not apply to you. Do you do uncontested divorce? No. I'm currently waiting for an interview date for an immigrant visa. Will the election affect that? So I just answered that. I'm 18. Do I have to worry about the deportation? It depends on your facts here. Now, I did, as you know, they were interviewing someone on CNN who is working with Trump's administration, and one thing he did hint at was, which is not out of the ordinary as it is now, is they would focus on deporting people with criminal records first, who, not even criminal records, people who are a threat to national security. So that was a hint as to what, but that is already in place based on the deportation enforcement. They still have that priority in place. So that's not anything new. Can I work for another company while I have EB3 in process? It's unlikely unless you have a work permit, but I would have to understand the facts first. Lived here legally for 21 years. I'm 26. I have a green card, got convicted of a felony. Will that be deport? So it depends. So if you've lived here for a very long time and the felony doesn't count as a deportable crime, then you could be okay. But it depends on what you were convicted for, the facts involved. So anytime you have criminal offenses, we need to look at the documents, look at the court documents, hear the specific charge, know what state it's in, to tell you what consequences you should be looking at. Is your assistance countrywide? Yes, it is. Is advance parole still valid for traveling since now we have new president? Yes, it's still valid. But just be careful traveling. I'm a nurse. Can I file an EB2? No. So nurses can't, unless you have an advanced degree, like a master's or a PhD. I spent 5.5 months in the US. Can I leave for 1 week and come back in? That's not a good idea. That is definitely usually sometimes grounds for them to cancel your visa and send you back home. Good night. What's your cost consultation if I want to file for $150? And then we can talk and we can provide you a quote based on the evaluation, the case evaluation. So go ahead, schedule your appointment. If your work permit has denied, what can you do? It depends on why it was denied. Does the government give you some type of document while you wait for adjustment of status for proof? So they give you the work permit. So that's one thing they give you during adjustment of status. Is an EB2 form hard to submit? The form is pretty straightforward, but it's the evidence. The evidence is what is important. EB2 is national interest waiver, which means that you have to show that you have an advanced degree or you have exceptional ability. And then you'd also have to show additional requirements to be able to file the national interest waiver. So those requirements have to do with, can you show that you're going to achieve a goal of national importance and substantial merit? Do you have, and that doesn't mean you have to invent anything or you have to be famous, but it has to fit within a goal of national importance or substantial merit, that you have the means to achieve the goal, and that it's more beneficial to the US to grant that to you. So you would have to prove those prongs. So it's in the evidence, not necessarily the form. Is work permit serves that you are here legally? Thanks so much for the gifts, the generous gifts. I appreciate that. Is work permit serves that you are here legally? Yes. So it gives you, it is proof that you have permission to be here. I have a scheduled appointment. Well, awesome. I can't wait to speak with you. I am amped up. So is attorney Bria. So is attorney, the entire staff. We're all working very hard right now. And we're determined. So I was in distress just because, it's not, I want you to know, as immigrants, you're not alone. Um, you are, as immigrants, we're one group, but we're women. Women have been affected. Our children are potentially affected if they to get rid of Department of Labor. Our daughters, are gonna be raised with much more restrictions than us, than we enjoyed, and no, we don't enjoy that as a woman. Transgender, LGBTQ community are also affected by the various anti-LGBTQ legislation that's popping up, and anti-transgender um, legislation that's popping up across the country. So we are all in distress right now, and just on the edge of our seats about what changes are coming, and we have to take it day by day. So you're not alone. About my job right now is to just do what I've been doing, and so I got my head screwed on and said, all right, it's time to just do what I have been doing all along. My experience has always been this, and it's not anything new. I'm not inventing anything new. The laws are there to protect you. What are new laws for immigrants? I just got here. Okay, so no new laws. The laws that were there before that I have been using to help my clients to get their papers and protection will be there. It's going to be there when Trump gets there. And any changes that are going to be coming, we're going to get notice of those changes. So we're going to know we need to get these applications in before this date. But I say this, as I am doing preparing strategy, making sure I'm ready for next year, I'm doing it now, right? I'm not waiting for Trump to come into office to know I'm equipped. I'm getting equipped now. We already got off a call with other attorneys that do the same thing that I do. And so we're getting ready. We're taking the time. And I say to you, do the same. I have gone through this live to show you that you have the time. We don't have much time, but use the time to figure it out, what options could work for you. How much it costs to file T visa. So there are no application fees, and then there are attorney fees, but we don't provide the quote unless first we have to talk to you, make sure you qualify, and then we provide you the quote. I filed for asylum from 2020, but no interview as yet. Do you think it's going to be pushed back? It may, because they are backlogged. There are over 1 million asylum applications right now. All right. So I would love to continue to stay, but I think if I continue, I'm not going to, I'm gonna keep going because I really enjoy spending the time with you. It gives me comfort as well, and reassurance as I go through your questions. I know we can get this done. We can get the job done. So I'm going to work to get back here tomorrow. So just look out for me, follow, like, subscribe. That way, when I come on and if you're available, you can come on too. And if I didn't get to your question, then that's where you should save your question for tomorrow. All right. But I went through today to let you know that yes, he has said the biggest mass deportation move in history. But I've gone through the facts with you to show you what the consequences would be. And the consequences of that would be devastating to the United States. Yes, there are going to be some, there's going to be some enforcement. There's going to be increased enforcement, but not on the scale that he is saying, right? It's just too costly. It's too devastating. So we have to stay vigilant, don't go hiding, but make sure that you do what you have been doing. You've been complying with the law, you've been doing what's right, you've been raising your children, you've been working, you've been honest. Keep doing that. You're not doing anything wrong. So keep doing that. And then as the changes come in, I'll continue to update you, right? But for now, as we have the laws and rules now, let's work on that. Let's work on this now. Let's get prepared, and let's do this. All right, I'm gonna be here for you next year and beyond, and we're gonna get through it. All right, so have a good night, everybody, and just get your rest. I'm going to do that now. I'm gonna sleep on it and then get up to just continue what I've been doing. Have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.